Hello everyone, I, Amit Kumar, Assistant Professor in the Department of Social Work, the Bhopal School of Social Sciences. I welcome you all in this lecture series of Heredity and Environment. So, moving towards the topic. You might have come across this kind of incident in your life when many of you have been told that your nose resembles your mother's nose, or your nose resembles your father's nose, or your eyes resembles your mother's or father's eyes, or you resembles your mother or you resembles your father. So, what is that? It is basically the personality of an individual. And heredity as well as environment both contributes to the personality of an individual. So, my next question in front of you is, what do you mean by personality? Personality is a Latin word derived from the word persona, which means mask. How exactly our external appearances are. So, personality can be defined as the dynamic organization within the individuals of those psychophysical system that determines his or unique adjustment to his environment, as given by Jordan W. Alpert. So, every phenomenon of life is the product of both heredity as well as environment, and there are ample of studies in the research from which we can clearly conclude that our personality is being contributed by almost 50% by heredity and 50% by the environment. It may vary 1 or 2%, but almost equally it is being contributed by the heredity as well as the environment. So, now comes the role of heredity and environment. Let me explain you from the perspective of genetics. So, here we have 23 chromosomes we are getting from mother and 23 chromosomes we are getting from the father. Out of these 23 chromosomes, 22 pairs of chromosomes are somatic cells and only one pair is sex cells. 23 pairs of chromosomes determine how our personality will be, how our nose will be, how our eyes will be, how exactly we will reflect in our daily life. And the rest 1% will determine what sex we will be. Either we will be male or we will be female. So, the personality is the product of learning during the course of prolonged social relationship with people both within and outside the home. Whatever heredity we possess, we inherit from our parents, and what environment in which we are living, both will determine the personality of an individual. So, now we come to the role of heredity. Before we move towards the role of heredity, let me explain you it with one story. One day, one student returned from the school and he told to her mother that, "Mother, I won a prize in the singing competition." So, her mother was very confident and she told that it should be like it only. But there was a suspicion and doubt in the mind of the children. Why mother told? And that's why, as an innocent person, he asked from his mother, "Mother, why did you told like this?" His mother told, "Beta, your father was a good singer, but because of pressure, because of lack of environment, he could not perform well in the singing profession and he has to opt for alternative job. So, your winning as a singer is not a very unique thing for us." So, here comes the role of heredity, which is inwardly determined and closely associated with the maturation of physical and mental characteristics, which constitutes the individual heredity endowment. The principal raw material of personality, physique, intelligence and temperament are all result of heredity. How the individual appearance will be, how the individual look like, how the individual trait and types of the personality will be determined by the heredity. At the same time, what will be the intelligence of the individual? Intelligence here refers to ability to judge well, understand well, and reason well. And the temperaments, what kind of temperament does the individual will possess? Whether he will be aggressive, he will be submissive, or what kind of temperament the individual will possess is all being determined by the heredity. And personality is formed from the interaction of significant figures like our parents, mother, father, grandfather, grandmother, maternal grandmother, maternal grandfather, and siblings, latter extra-familiar figures with the child. So all these significant others contribute to the personality of an individual. At the same time, the child brings this interaction of biological constitution, a set of needs and intellectual capacities which determines the way in which a person is acted upon by the significant figures in his or her environment. How he will react. Here, I remember the Adolf Adler theory, where he has given different kinds of traits, reaction traits of his child during the same situation. So, how the child will react, how the child temperament will be, if I say overall how the personality of a child will be determined by the heredity. At the same time, personality pattern of the individual is being determined through interaction with the environment which an individual himself has initiated. And as I told you in the beginning of the lecture, 50% of the personality is being determined by the heredity and the 50% of the personality is being determined by the environment. So, even if you provide better environment to individual who don't have the characteristics or who don't have the heredity of such performance, he won't be able to perform. And even if the individual has the trait, characteristics, and he don't get the environment to perform, so the individual cannot be able to perform. Let me give you an example. Nowadays we are saying Priyanka Gandhi. She is very active, and many occasions it is being told by different professionals, politicians, that she resembles her grandmother. Till now, she has not got opportunity to perform. But the sharpness, the heredity of her grandmother is in her personality. And that's why these politicians used to say that she resembles her grandmother. But once the environment will be in favor, she will get the environment to perform, she will definitely perform better. And here we find the classic example of the role of environment in the performance of an individual. Heredity sets limits to a person's development. Here we find whatever environment you provide to an individual, if he or she do not have such trait to perform, he won't perform in his life. Even if you provide the best environment of the world, because it is being restricted by the heredity component. People are not totally free to choose and develop the kind of personality pattern they want. They are not at all free. Rather, they are being shaped by heredity as well as environment both. So that's why I told in the beginning that personality of an individual is a combination of both heredity as well as environment. Now comes the role of environment. We find an individual personality is the product of countless interaction between the genetic and physical and socio-cultural environment. There is one theory called social culture of poverty. It clearly tells you that if a person is reared into poverty, he will have certain personality limitation in his or her life. He will be taking less risk in his or her life. But at the same time, those individuals who are being reared and who are being grown up into the elite class with more and more resources, he will not develop such kind of scarcity in his personality. At the same time, we find there are different environmental factors which contributes to the personality of an individual, like climate, terrain, natural resources. All these shapes. The person who is living in plain areas, they have their skins different from people who is living in hilly areas, or those people who is living in very high altitude like Leh and Ladakh. They will have different kinds of physiological appearance because the environment leads them to adjust to the environment in which they live. Dense jungle, barren desert, high mountains and flat lands, all these contributes to the personality of an individual. How they adapt to the particular environment, being particular challenges being posed by these environmental factors, will shape the personality of an individual in a particular manner. Temperature, humidity, hygiene and rainfall, all these contribute to the personality of an individual and how the person will look like. And scarcity, disease and other unfavorable conditions affects the personality of an individual, not only in terms of their appearance but in terms of their performance too. As I told you about people living in the terrain or unfavorable tends to undergo adaptive physiological changes, like the circulatory system of the Eskimo tends to lie deep within a protective fatty layer which conserve his body heat, and thus it helps in their survival in the adverse situation. And just exposed to it, these kind of physiological changes do not take place within the individual or within the individual body who is living in plain areas. Now comes the role of some different environmental factors like socio-cultural environment, group memberships, the group in which the individual is associated with. It gives you a power, it gives you a way of thinking, it changes your personality. And instruction, whatever instruction we get from the group or the other group members, it shapes up our personality, how to behave, how to react, how to perform within the norms of the group. At the same time, reference group, we feel very proud to get associated with certain groups, or even if we are directly or indirectly associated with particular groups, we feel proud and accordingly we change our behavior. Your behavior will automatically change if somebody recognizes you that you are a student of such and such school or you are a student of such and such college. Automatically your behavior in presence of that particular person or that particular environment changes. And at the same time, status and role, our behavior also changes according to our status. The status we achieve, accordingly we change our behavior in the society. When we are adolescent, our behavior is different. When we are children, our behavior is different. When we become adult, our behavior becomes change. And according to change in our status, we also change our role. Before marriage, we are bachelor, but after marriage, we have responsibility of our jobs, our family, of procreation, in which we start our own family. We give birth to our young ones. And also, interpersonal relationship changes. Earlier, when we are in our family of orientation, we have not so many responsibility, but as we move ahead, we find in the family of procreation, we have to maintain relationship with our kith and kins, with our near and dear, and with our different significant others. And thus, environment compel us, environment promote us to behave in the particular environment. So, with this point, we have came to end of this today's lecture. We will meet again sometimes with some new topic. Thank you.